Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to our angel investing workshop. Firstly, thank you for your time. It's 8 p.m. on a weekday, so you must be tired. We'll try to keep it as interesting and interactive as possible. Diving right into our topic, as most of you already know, India has surpassed UK to become the third largest startup ecosystem in the world after US and China. So India had 51 unicorns last year in 2021. Today, as we speak, we have more than 100 plus unicorns. Every day we keep reading or listening about all these startups making tremendous amount of growth. So how do we take part in this growth? What is angel investing and what is it that we do differently at Lead Angels? Today we have with us Mr. Sushanto Mitra, founder and CEO of Lead Angels. Sushanto was the first external CEO at Sign IIT Bombay. He was the founding director at Hyderabad Angels, a TIE Charter member and an author as well. His book, Funding Your Startups and Other Nightmares, has already been printed twice. So highly recommend this book. He's got over 2 decades of experience in financial services and in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. You're on mute, Sushanto.
Yeah, thanks, Lakshmi. And thank you everyone for coming here, because I know middle of the week and with Diwali and Karwa Chauth in not too far away, we're all very, very busy. So thanks very much for coming. I'd also like to welcome all our members who are here, and thanks for that as well as the other guests who are on this panel. So I think what I will say is that the startups are really the giants of the future. And our job as angel investors is to identify those amongst the thousands of startups which will become those giants. Who could spot Google or Flipkart or Ola early? Those guys made humongous amounts of capital, much better than any other form of investment. So that's really the job of Lead Angels. And that's what all of us, the entire team and our members and the startups that we have invested in are working towards, making giants out of startups. Right? So go ahead, Lakshmi.
Sure, I'll get started. So Sushanto, can you please tell us about Lead Angels and your journey? How did it all start?
Okay. So it goes way back in history. So I worked in the consulting and financial service area and got an opportunity to work at IIT Bombay, which is at that point of time the most and still is perhaps the most active startup academic entity with startup activity. We already had companies like Infosys and others which came out of Zorient, so many other companies which came out of IIT Bombay. And there was a general environment of encouraging startups. And I became the first CEO of the incubator there called Sign. And those of you who've seen this movie called 3 Idiots, you would have seen a quadrator in a UAV a drone as now famous through Putin and Ukraine, which is there. So that was one of the companies which was incubated at IIT Bombay way back in 2007. Today, it's a very large company selling drones to the Indian defense as well as police forces. I spent 5 years there, very exciting times, but somewhere, given a government environment, it has limitations as you would appreciate. And an academic institution is even more bureaucratic than a government. So we had a double whammy. So along with a professor and a student, sorry, let me go back. So the reason why I thought, so I got a job at Hyderabad Angels and moved to Hyderabad and was very excited about it. But as I was leaving IIT, I felt that somewhere I was going to be missing IIT Bombay. And the primary reason why I started Lead Angels was to go back to the academic institutions. And it was, those of you who are familiar with Bombay, it is, IIT Bombay is located in Powai, and I stay in Bandra, so which is like a 2-hour drive during the monsoons. And I had 2 hours to mull over the fact that I was going to leave IIT and probably not come back to it. And that is what sort of egged me on. And along with a student and a professor at IIT Bombay, I set up Lead Angels primarily to go back to the academic institutions and bring out the best startups from there to the external investors who may not be associated with those academic institutions. Of course, over this period, Lead Angels has evolved a lot more than just working with academic institutions. We now have a SEBI-registered angel fund. We have team members across Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, and Bombay. But I think our DNA remains the same. We are a company which is an angel network which is focused on early stage disruptive startups, and the backgrounds of our team and our directors and our members. We are all very curious about the startup ecosystem and the new things that are happening. Many of us come from professional backgrounds who work in consulting companies or financial services companies. And that really helps all of us together to evaluate startups and hopefully one day make a lot of money out of it.
Thank you, Sushant. That's a very inspiring journey. So for the benefit of everyone here, right, we all come from different backgrounds. What is angel investing? It's a very basic one.
So I think one way of defining angel investing is, it is, on one side of the startup world are the founders. The founders to realize their dreams, they need money. So the other side of the coin are the angel investors who support these startups in the hope, very early, before venture funds and private equity and public markets would be excited to invest in them. They provide them money and hopefully something more to reach the next stage, so that they draw the attention of venture funds and others to invest in them. They could be individual angel investors or working groups such as Indian Angel Network and Lead Angels and so on and so forth.
Got it. Thank you so much. So again, coming to the Lead Angels, right? We have a presentation towards the end, but how is Lead Angels different, and what is the investment process followed at Lead Angels?
Sure. So I think I did explain our origins are somewhat different from the existing angel networks and the new angel networks which are coming up today. So while our primary focus, and that's what I believe, is our primary focus is so what do we manufacture? Or what is that we provide? We provide curation of startups. The entire team of Lead Angels, including myself and some of our directors, are involved in helping us in evaluating startups. So that is the primary work. So startups come to us through various means, through events, through references from our own portfolio companies and members. And this whole bunch of startups, maybe 100 to 200 companies, come to us. And our entire team starts, figuring out which are disruptive, which are scalable, which are capital efficient, and bring those to the investment committee. And then that's the one level of shortlist. Next level of shortlisting is done by the members themselves. When the companies present, typically once a month on a Saturday, and thankfully now in the internet world on Zoom, our members evaluate and share their comments and suggestions about the company. And amongst our members, and we are lucky and fortunate to have members across different domains. Somebody may come from media, somebody comes from health tech. One of those people who has a domain expertise in that area, he or she becomes a deal lead and does a deep dive into a company, again, to see how scalable it is, how disruptive it is, how capital efficient the company is, and most important is the team capable of building a company into a giant. And that is the process. Of course, once this is done, each individual member decides whether he or she wants to invest. Then the rest of the team takes over, along with our auditors and lawyers, to do a due diligence, the statutory diligence of the company, whether it has been compliant with the law, has done taken necessary approvals, has not violated anything. What it claims to own, it actually owns. That is the legal and financial due diligence. And then, the terms of investment are agreed upon by the investor and the company. And eventually, through our fund or through our network, the investment is made. If there are any questions, please stop us in between and ask. We are very happy to hear your questions in between as well as at the end.
Thank you so much, Sushant. So not only a lot of thought process and analysis is done before presenting it to the members, but even after, when we actually go forward and start making those commitments, taking those commitments, there's a lot of diligence that goes into behind the scenes diligence that happens. The next one is there's also a fund. A lot of posts have gone out on LinkedIn. 6+ investments have already been made. What is the difference for investors and startups as well between the network and the fund?
Yeah. So when we started Lead Angels, it was easy to handle because we had a few members. We were all used to the paper world, and all the documentation has to be signed by each of the shareholders, investors, and so on and so forth. SEBI, over a period of time, we've been lobbying with SEBI to regulate this market because financial markets need to be regulated, and it protects the investors from if I may use the word fly-by-night operators. It also enables serious players in the field to provide cutting-edge services and solutions to investors. So SEBI came up with the guidelines for angel funds, and we are amongst the first angel networks to have converted ourselves to a fund. What a fund essentially does is that instead of investors investing directly into the company, they invest through a fund, and SEBI recognized entities manage this so that the investor interests are protected, and the investment process, instead of being a very complicated one with a lot of paper moving up and down, is a seamless and easy to do sort of thing. I think all of it is electronic. There is no physical movement of paper. The shares, except the shares when they come to be held by the trustee of ours, which is called credence. And that helps us to do transactions faster, enables investors to keep track of their investments, and overall in the guidance and regulations of SEBI. In the rest of the world also, the angel investing is slowly getting institutionalized, and in some places, if I may add, is replacing micro VCs and individual angel investors, because that is probably the way of future where there'll be some most of the retail investors will operate through angel funds, and the larger investors will operate through PE funds and growth VC funds, and the rest of the ecosystem will be controlled by angel funds.
Thank you so much. So the entire success is dependent on these portfolio companies of ours actually performing well. What are some of the additional services that we have for these companies? And not only that, how else do we, in addition to providing capital, what else do we provide them to succeed?
So I'll just, so I don't know if some of you are aware, there are lots of incubators in India. And I'm giving that example because most of the incubators in India operate largely as landlords, and the startups are tenants in that incubator. And very early at IIT Bombay, it was one of our endeavors to not be a landlord, rather be a sort of a supportive agency. So not only did Sign give money to these startups, not only give less space, but created an environment where these startups can be nurtured and supported and support each other. So that was also one element of why we set up Lead Angels, is to bring that same element of nurture and care to the startups when we move. Because here now, not only are we working on behalf of our investors, but also ourselves, as you know, as a fund, we also invest in these startups alongside our angel investors. So we have now a vested interest or to support these companies so that they grow. So one of the key things that we do is, and how we are different perhaps from any other angel group, is that we have an advisory team, and it is not a coincidence that Lakshmi leads that team here. So Lakshmi leads our advisory team, and Lakshmi works with our portfolio companies to help them raise the next round of funding, helps them in M&A. As of now, we are looking at some acquisitions by some of our portfolio companies. We are working for some strategic alliances with some of our portfolio companies. We feel that because for a startup to really grow, not only do they need funding, but they also need the support to reach out to these funds. They need credibility. And that's where our members come in, because many of them are senior professionals in top companies. Just to name a few, we have quite a few members from the big 4 consulting companies, some of the top banks such as Barclays, HSBC, Stanchart, some of the top finance companies, people who are in the IT world, Google, Microsoft. So we connect these startups to our members. And here what happens is, by helping these startups, our members also benefit because their portfolio grows. And it's like a collaborative effort in helping the startup to grow. Some of our members are in, say, media or digital media market, so they do webinars for our startups. We've also started an initiative of helping our startups to recruit. So these are a bunch of services that we provide. And of course, this is just the beginning. I think just as advisory services is a first sort of service from an angel network, we believe that we will create more such service offerings to our startups going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also request if you can please share some metrics in terms of, how we measure the success of this particular network or fund. Where do you think it's a successful one? Any examples that you can share?
So I think, as I said, our primary focus is evaluating companies and the job that we do. And the next is, once we have invested in the company, supporting those companies. So I will take the example of a company called Shop Kirana. It is not founded by IITians. It is not from a major metro. It is from Indore. And they came to sort of aggregate mom and pop shops and help them to be more efficient. So we of course invested at them. We helped them to raise money from InfoEdge. It's just a good coincidence that Sanjeev Bigchandani is 1 year senior to me in school and college. So that helped to make the introductions. And they raised their first institutional round from Sanjeev Bigchandani, InfoEdge. And then, of course, they flew out of the nest and we were very happy to see them, flying out of the nest, raised multiple rounds of funding and gave us a 25x exit. That's not the only one. There are others. More recently, we've invested in a company called Planet Sparks, where our investment is 50x of our original investment. One of our shortest exits has been in a company called Chefcart, where I think we've got a 5x exit in less than a year. So these are some of the success stories. I think the reason why we are able to get good results, one is our backgrounds, I would say, in consulting. So we really focus a lot on the fundamentals of the company, and our focus, our CFO, Suman Sengupta, comes from a financial and accounting background, and he sort of oversees the due diligence and the negotiation of the terms with other VCs, which help us to give, make sure that whatever we are investing in has the hygiene factor is there. So I think both these things, along with the team and our members, a lot of times we have dropped transactions just because one of our members was able to deep dive into the company, spend time with them and tell us, look, these are the things which are, dicey about the company, and let's not go ahead. And we have dropped those companies and later on realized that we were very wise to have dropped those companies. So that is really the value that our members and our team add to this whole process of investing.
Got it. That's very, very helpful. I mean, the metrics clearly speak about all the diligence that goes in and the perspectives that we take.
Yeah, that is the result. The work that we do is evaluation. The result is the performance of the portfolio.
Going forward, what is the vision for Lead Angels and what can members expect?
Right. So again, going back to the background of working at IIT Bombay, I think we are, as an angel network and fund, are fairly conservative. We typically don't invest in companies which don't have revenues, right? One of the things we sometimes miss out, therefore, are very promising companies which come to us, but at a pre-revenue stage. This sort of suggestion has actually come from a member where we want to create a lab where we will mentor these pre-revenue companies, get them to reach a post-revenue stage, and then invest in them. And in partnership or in collaboration with our members, help this company through this process and have a sort of win-win-win partnership, collaboration with the company, the concerned member and lead angels. So we do that in pre-revenue incubation, so as to speak. So that is one thing that we are working on. The other that we are working on is sub-sector funds. One of the funds that we have started is India's first vegan fund called Ahimsa.vc, which focuses in the small but growing niche of vegan companies. We have plans to build some other sub-sector funds, because as the startup ecosystem matures in India, I think specialization amongst investors will be important. So we want to create that, just like Lead Angel LA Labs or the lab will bring companies at a very early stage. These micro funds will scar domain specific companies and bring them to speed before our fund can invest. And I think there are very many exciting sectors in India. SaaS is one that we all know, but sectors such as health tech, biotech, defense, even hospitality. I think these are some of the sectors where very interesting companies will come out, and that is what is planned in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That brings us to our next topic. Is the timing right for investments in startups? What is your take on the current macroeconomic outlook, and what impact will it have on our startup funding and angel investors?
So I have the fortune or misfortune of having been in the startup ecosystem for the last 20 years. So I remember in 2000, there was this dot-com crash in 2001, and people had written off startups and said, valuations of startups just crashed there was a Wall Street crash, and that led to a crash in startup valuations. And it was, VC started, and that was, we hear this word called funding winter, and we really had a funding winter in those days. But many of the startups which were created in those days survive to this day, Google being one of them. So is Yahoo, I think, was also created at that time. So I think there is always a time for disruption, and startups, I think the primary driver of startups is not the economy, but technology. So what is driving newer startups is the advances made in technology. We all know about, the law of how technology, the speed of computing is doubling every year. I think the other thing that is happening is that apart from the speed of computing, AI and biotech and the convergence of medicine and engineering, that is creating very interesting areas. And that really is not dependent on whether Putin is fighting a war or Lehman Brothers goes down or whatever happens. So startups are here to stay. I think also what has changed is that India, as a, if I may say so, legitimate startup location and geography, is now well established. Foreigners are thinking of setting up. We work with a university in Canada called Carleton, and one of the projects that we do for them is to help their startups set up base in India. And we're talking to a few universities in US also for the same purpose. So the world is interested in coming, and startups are interested in coming to India. So it's not that everybody goes to Silicon Valley to set up their business. People are coming to India to set up business. Lastly, I think, the geopolitical environment, which is not too great, but it favors India because a lot of manufacturing and technology companies want to set up their base in India. And that is probably going to generate the next set of entrepreneurs, maybe over the next 5 to 10 years, who will set up new ventures in India. So the population dividend, the technology, India's position in the geopolitical world, I think all that is pointing to the fact that, this century is going to be India's century.
That's very comforting to know. And last but not the least, you've already touched about how members can collaborate with our portfolio companies, but what are other ways that members can get involved?
Right. So I think, as I said, members are a very critical part of Lead Angels. So they are our brand ambassadors. They are our brains. They're also the people for whom we get, our home fires are burning. So they're very critical. We involve our members not only in evaluating companies or helping companies post-investment, but also in reaching out to the startup ecosystem, so events, panels for startup evaluation. We hope to start even and like a program like this where we get our newer members or people who are evaluating lead angels to come and ask their questions and to know more about the start, because startup world is very new uh, in terms of a business entity, and it's all a learning journey of learning, and there's a lot to learn from academic institutions, other investors, events, and so on and so forth. So it's a learning journey, and we would welcome all our members and team to join this journey of learning.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sushanto. Hi, everyone. Please feel free to ask your questions while we set up a very quick presentation on lead angels.
Lakshmi, can we ask the questions at the moment?
Yes, yes.
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
we can start.
So our first question is from Mr. Piyush. His question is, how many companies do we have in our portfolio? What has been the percentage of companies which have met success as in next round of raising funds?
Okay. Is that Piyush our member, or it's some other Piyush? Just want to know. Piyush, can you hear us? But anyway, I'll answer the question. We have a portfolio of about 60 odd companies. I would say about more than 60% of our portfolio has raised their next round. So they could have raised one round. There are companies who have raised, like Shop Kirana or Planet Spark and some others who have raised multiple rounds. So 60% of companies have raised subsequent rounds, which is a fairly good number. What was the next part of the question, Sakshi?
How many companies do we have in a portfolio, and what was the percentage of companies which we have met success as in next round of raising funds?
Yeah, so that's about 60%. Yes.
Yeah. So am I audible? This is Piyush from Udaipur.
Yeah, hi Piyush.
Hi, Sushant. It was really enlightening to hear you out. And I myself, I'm a banker and have been studying. Besides my job, it's very intriguing field. And I've been trying to help few of my customers who are basically debt customers. Like they've raised debt from me. But then if I find them really suitable for the next level, no. So I help them with maybe IPO or maybe VC kind of thing. So I haven't done much work, but yes, I mean whatever time permits me, I try to guide them with this. So I in fact did a course with IAVC also, but that was way back and I could not implement it. What my question is that can I get associated as a as somebody who can mediate so that I learn also and help other SMEs also to kind of get in touch with the right people as in like your company Lead Angels. Can I join in as a mediator?
Yeah, so we work. See, this is an ecosystem, and whether it is incubators, I spoke about incubators. We spoke about angel funds and angel networks. There are VCs. There are advisory and consulting firms. In fact, just the other day, my neighbor here in Delhi is from KPMG, and he dropped in and said, "Can we work with your startups? And can you come to KPMG and talk about startups to our team members?" Right? So this is all about collaboration, and that is what, if you see the most of the startups, they specialize in one area, and for the other areas they collaborate. Zomato runs the largest restaurant chain in India, but does do no cooking, right? So it is about, and what I think the rest of the world has to learn about how startups collaborate, whether it's in fintech or it's in hospitality or e-commerce. Each one does what they are good at and collaborates with others in what they can do. And yes, we work with a lot of all the ecosystem players, whether it's incubator or advisors or banks and so on and so forth. So would love to please get in touch with my colleagues in the network team, and we can see how we can collaborate.
Thanks much. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush. The second question is, firstly, thank you for joining us for awareness regarding funding. We would like to know what is the opportunities for early stage startup without revenue with minimum viable product and 50 customers.
Right. So as I think I said this earlier, and I will repeat that lead angels, given the fact that we have to protect the interests of our investors, 90% of the time does not look at pre-revenue companies because they are far more risky. And I don't think it fits. As a group, it does not fit our risk return profile. Having said that, there are incubators, there are individual angel investors who would be interested in accelerators, who are willing to take up companies at the MVP stage and invest in them or guide them. For us to build, as talked about, our startup labs, which will still take some time to build. Till then, we would happy to direct you to some of the incubator near your geographical location.
Thank you, Shushanto. Our next message is from Mr. Chaitanya. He says, hi, Shushanto, thanks for sharing your wonderful story. I want to know how you see the property tech affecting the real estate sector, because so far real estate has been one sector that has been lagging in adopting the technological revolution.
So yes, so if you recall, nobody thought that the retail sector, the malls will get affected by e-commerce. And even after COVID is over, you can see that, the malls are not doing so well. So I think sector by sector, the startups are disrupting the old world, the bricks and mortar sector, and whether we like it or not, it will also affect the real estate sector. Fractional ownership, co-ownership, all these things are coming up. Trading of this through cryptos. So a lot of changes will be coming, and the real estate sector will also get affected. It may take a little longer, but that will be a much deeper sort of connect. Today, the real estate sector is more got affected from the inquiry generation or doing virtual sort of trips and so on. But sooner or later, and I think some of the transactions are also started happening. I'm told Tata Housing sells a fair percentage of real estate on its website. And I think that will only increase. And also trading or secondary sales will start happening on the in the real estate. Right now, only primary sales are happening online, but I think it is not very far that secondary sales will start happening in the on the online platform. I hope that answered your question.
Mr. Chaitanya, I hope we have answered your question. Okay, thanks, Sushanto, and over to Lakshmi, please.
Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Sushanto. Over to you, Sushanto, for the presentation.
No, thank you very much. Once again, we would love to hear from you about what you liked or disliked about this presentation. Maybe if we have a poll, or if you want to send your comments, we could do that. I think our email address, if we can just share, which is available at the end of, or we can put it on the chat. Very happy to interact with you. Lakshmi, if you can just write our email ID or move to the slide which has our email ID, we can put that there. I think the last slide has that. And please share your questions. If you want to connect to me personally, somebody can share my email ID. If you happen to be in Delhi at this point of time, happy to meet you. And any last comments, suggestions, you can unmute the panelists if they want to add, the audience if they want to say something. Great. I think that is all. Thank you very much for your comments and your thank you notes. And we will look forward to seeing you again in one of our next sessions of Lead Angels. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening and happy Diwali in advance.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Diwali to all of you.